Is that the other one? Oh God, that was creepy. Okay.
I've never heard it said. Sorry, Evan.
So today we're doing opportunities pipeline setup, and we're going to do DocuSign, right? So we are going to get all the way up to the point where we're able to write some contracts, right? And next week, we're going to close out the month's classes with the compliance piece of that and the commissions request piece of that. And by the end of that, you'll know everything that you need to know in order to get paid, right? So we've talked about putting contacts in. We've talked about marketing to them. Now we're talking about how we manage our sales pipeline. So I'm going to share my screen. And we will get to rocking and rolling. Move this thing out of the way. All right, there we go. So agent.kw.com. If you come here and you do not have a single contact, please go ahead and add one now, and you can add me. I'm to contacts. You can throw me in your database. I look forward to receiving your marketing. Name, email address, and phone number. Who wants to walk me through that real quick? I'm on the screen, and I'm going to add Greg to my database today. So somebody walk me through how I'm going to get to that. I'm in contacts. What am I clicking on next? Any takers?
Add contact?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, yep. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say, Greg, good guy. There we go. Greg, what's a good email I can throw out there for you?
It's property sold by Greg.
Gmail?
Yep.
Perfect. And then phone number, I'm going to put an 86759. Okay, for now. So you can put my information in. Don't actually, I think that's Greg's real email. So what we're going to do today, don't actually put his real email in because we might blow up Greg with a bunch of contracts. He's going to be very confused. So let's be
Just put it
respectful.
on Yahoo or something.
And we're going to hit create. Now we have a contact in our database. That means now we can come into opportunities, right? So this is what the class is going to be about today. So the opportunities button is right over here. The two hands shaking. We are going to come into here. Now, before we get moving any more forward, raise your hand here if you are on a team. One. I know, Buffy, I know you're on a team. Two.
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Okay,
Benjamin.
so
You can see Benjamin. Oh, goodness.
are you
Very
going to
good.
explain the difference between, because like I have to pick, I think somebody told us, not you, somebody, the other guy that was talking told us to put all of our contacts under Prime Team, not under my own name. But we all do everything individually. We just market ourselves as a team.
So this is a question. That's a good question. So this is not a question of like who owns the contacts, yada yada, anything like that. This is a question of just logistics.
Okay.
If we are going to use the team pipeline, right, which
Right.
will afford us some ease of life, then we must use the team database to do so. Right.
Can you just say
Team
that
data.
again? If we are going to use the team, what?
We are going to use the team pipeline, putting opportunities under the team. The contacts also have to be under that team, right?
Sure. Okay, then I guess we're part of a team.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you guys don't see on my screen that teams do is that if you're an individual agent, you see two buttons up here. You see your name and you see all, right? Now, if you're on a team, you're going to see an option just before your name, and it'll have your team name on there. And if you click that team name or you click your name, you see basically the same screen, right? It's the same app, except one is working with that team database and one is working with your personal one. Now, I'm not going to dive too much farther in that concept. Just know that both fundamentally work the exact same way. They just work exclusively from one another, okay? And then, Greg, what I would say to you is plan on using the team one. And it's the same thing, everything else I'm going to say, but plan on using that one. And then, Benjamin, of course, you already know this. So what do we see here? We have a pipeline view. This is our home screen. And I'm going to make this really straightforward because it kind of is straightforward, which is that we have three big old lines here. We have a green one for listings, We have an orange one for buyers, and we have a purple one for leases. And these are where our different opportunity types are going to go, right? Listings are going to go into the listing pipeline. Buyers are going to go to the buyer pipeline. Landlord and tenants are both going to go to the leases pipeline. All of them share 5 distinct phases that are basically the same. So we start with cultivate, go into appointment, go into active, going into under contract, and going into closed. The only difference is that the leases one's called pending instead of under contract. Make no mistake, it's the exact same thing, right? So this is kind of like our timeline for how our leads flow, right? We go from left to right. The first thing we do is we meet somebody and we start cultivating them. Now, whether or not you want to use this phase or not, it's kind of up to you. You don't have to start tracking at this point. A lot of people start tracking at the appointment phase because that's when paperwork starts becoming necessary, right? But cultivate is like, who are my hot leads that I have an opportunity with? What's an opportunity? Let's define that real quick. An opportunity in the system is it's a representation of a current or potential piece of business, right? It's a transaction. So every opportunity, every transaction you have is its own opportunity. In cultivate, we're getting into an appointment, which is when we're talking about meeting, getting together. The whole goal of an appointment is so we can get together, we can get signed an active agreement. That active agreement is when we're live on the MLS, we're actively searching for houses. And the whole point of that is to get, well, under contract, right? And then the whole point of being under contract is so you can close that bad boy that ends it closed. So it goes in that order. Inside of each phase, there are, if I click on this, I'm going to go into listings cultivate here. I'll click on it and I'm in the stage view. Okay, so now I'm inside a phase, and in here I'm seeing the 3 stages that are inside this phase. And here, in my case, I have hot, nurture, and super duper hot because I'm an idiot. Don't take my template for yours. You may not want to copy me. Apparently, I was getting pretty lazy on a creativity there. So typically the opportunities are going to start here and move right along. Now, you guys might see something like hot. What else do you guys see yours for the default? There are some default phases in there. Is anybody on their screen looking at this? No worries now. So inside of the hot stage, I have 3 opportunities for 3 different listings that I could have coming up that are hot. And let's say I want to move an opportunity from one stage to another. It's simple, drag and drop. I just drag and drop it, moving it forward. And if this opportunity were to get into an appointment, I would take it and drag it and drop it over the appointment phase. That's going to move it out of this phase into the next one. And so on we go down the chronological order of a deal. In the appointment phase, I've got 4 stages. I've got scheduling, scheduled, rescheduled, and appointment held. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, hey, I don't actually have the same stages you do. And that would be correct because stages are actually 100% customizable. I can change what's in these stages. And I'm going to come back to that here in a little while. Okay. Right now, I just want to get us familiar with the idea of phases and stages because when we create an opportunity, it's going to go into one of these stages. We're going to put it in the pipeline. And that's important to know before we make our first one. We're going to put it. And it's important to know that because when you make it, you want to know how to get back to it, right? You make it, you put it in there, you work on it, you close out your computer, you leave. It's Friday night, you go drinking with your buddies. Monday, you come back in, oh gosh, where was that opportunity at, right? So that's why we have to know that. Buyers has its own set of stages, so this is completely separate. I know that I'm in the appointment phase of my buyer pipeline because, well, it's highlighted right here. It says appointment. If I look here, it says buyer's appointment. So I know I'm in the appointment phase. It's not in listings or leases. Let's go ahead and let's create our first opportunity because chances are a lot of us are in this class because, holy crap, we got to make one. I got a deal coming up. Oh my God, what do I do? Right? So let's just dive right into that. To create an opportunity, we're going to just come up to the big old blue button up top right, and we're going to hit create opportunity. It's going to bring up this little window here. Now, we have to tell the system some information in order to create the opportunity. And we want to pay special attention to this part because this part can screw us up if we don't do this correctly, okay? First things first, is there anybody here who's in multiple market centers? I don't think so. I think we're all in just the one. So the first field is market center. This one's important. Right now, for most of us, there's just the one option. So not a big deal. If you ever do get multiple ones, just make sure you know that. And then for those of us that are on teams, you will see that you can select a team, right? Depending upon whether or not you select a team or not is going to determine what pipeline it goes into, whether it's that team pipeline or the personal one, okay? And that's entirely, if you're not sure what you should do, you should talk to whoever's running your C2C at your team, because there will be a standard more than likely that your team wants to do. Like for Benjamin's case, I know that they use the team pipeline. Every opportunity should run through that team pipeline. So for there, if you were on his team, you just go ask Benjamin if you weren't sure. Benjamin, sorry to sign you up for a bunch of emails.
It's all right.
That's why I tell everybody on FICA, but I say call Benjamin. All right. Now, if you're on a team as well, there's this owner category. This owner is always going to say the rainmaker's name. So Buffy, in your case, it would say Katie. Right there is the owner. This doesn't mean that they own the deal. It just means they're the owner of the team. If you're on a team and you use that, you'll see another field down at the bottom that'll say assignee. Be down here, and that's where you'll find your name. And that's what matters, right? That's what's giving you the ability to work on the deal and request commissions and get things signed into compliance and all that good stuff, right? So if anybody gets tied up over this word owner, don't. It doesn't actually mean anything, okay? It's just a matter of the fact that it's in that pipeline. Now, the one that we can all relate to, this is the one where everyone needs to pay attention to this one, is opportunity type. This is the one that I see that trips up agents more than anything else, because by default, it says listing, right? So if you skip over going, oh yeah, I've got it, and you go down, you fill it out and you hit create, but it was actually for a buyer, well, you messed up, because you'll get to paperwork and you'll realize that it's asking you for the exclusive buyer representation agreement, and you don't have one of those. It's asking you for the exclusive right to listing agreement. And you're like, well, hold on, I don't have the listing agreement, I have the buyer, right? The type determines which pipeline it goes into and what files are required for compliance. And the thing that's important about that is that once you make the opportunity, this is the one field that you cannot go back and edit once you've made it. Actually, I should say it like this. These first four fields up top cannot be changed once you have created the opportunity. If you get it wrong, it's not a big deal, right? It's a small headache. It is probably the most petty of headaches you will have that day, because all you got to do is just remake it and move the files over. Not a big deal. But I have had many people call me and go, well, hold on, I don't have these files for compliance. I go, it's because you made the wrong type. Pay closer attention, right? I don't say that to be mean, but it is what it is. So if this were a buyer, which I'll do that, I can make it to buyer. There's some new fields came up now that it's a buyer as well. Okay, so some things change. It also tracks what kind of details you would track. Any questions on that before I move past that one? That one's an important one. I know it's very simple, right? But did I make that like super 100% abundantly clear? You can nod or say yes or.
Evan, did you say the owner is what the assignee is?
No, owner is not what assignee is.
Okay.
That's a good question. So owner in your case is always going to be Tiffany Fikes, always, right? The assignee, you'll have another field that I don't have on my screen because I'm not on the team, but you'll see another field down at the bottom below phase and stage. It'll say assignee, and that's where you can put anybody who's on the team that's going to be working that file that needs access to it. You want to put them there because that's going to give them the ability to come in and do their work. So if I'm on your team as a buyer agent, I'm only going to see opportunities that are assigned to me in the team pipeline. I'm not going to see everybody else's business, right? I'm not going to have access. Like if I'm on your team or if I'm on Greg's team, I can't go in and mess with Kelly's files if they're not assigned to me, which I'm sure Kelly would appreciate.
When I clicked a client, I put a client in under client, and then it just popped up that person's name with the buyer by it.
That's because in your contact database, you have that person in there as their name hyphen buyer.
Okay, so that's, I mean, as long as I can find them, that's fine, right?
Yeah. It
Okay.
depends on just what standard of organization you want to hold yourself to, right? So in this case, for client, this is why I had us go ahead and add somebody in before we started this conversation, because if you don't have anybody in your database, you won't be able to make an opportunity, right? So you always want to make sure, step one, that you put the person in your database, right? Because when you go to type them in here, if I come in and I go, hey, let's put Benjamin in here. Oh my gosh, I have no options because Benjamin's not in my database. If I was making this opportunity for him, I had to stop, close out, go add on my database, and then come back. Small headache, very petty, but it is important to do that first, and that's how you can avoid that. But if I come in and type in Greg, so I just put him in here, there he is right there. Boom, Greg Strumpf. Did I pronounce that correctly? Strumpf? No, come on, tell me. Hold me accountable. What is it?
Strump. It's a strong P at the end.
Gotcha, Strumpf. Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
I have a
Yes, ma'am.
question. So say you have someone who is selling and they're a buyer, like you're going to help them sell their house and buy a house. How would you create an opportunity? Would it be two separate ones?
It's two different opportunities, correct?
Okay.
Because you're going to have two different transactions, right? You're going
And
to have
if
a
they're
transaction when they
having-
sold, and then another one when they bought. Yep.
Okay. And so if you're using like knock, where they're going to buy a house and sell kind of at the same time, like they'll buy first, would you just put them, like, will the system let you have them as both at the same time, a buyer and a seller?
Absolutely. I can make as
Okay.
many. I can make 15 opportunities for Greg if I want to.
Okay, perfect.
I can make as many as I want. So if Greg and I hold a very long-term, awesome relationship, and he's my investor, and we're just constantly in business buying and selling houses, then yeah, I can do one for every single deal. Now, co-buyer, this is, if anybody remembers, I talked about the relationship function in contacts last week. How you should add the relationships in. If I had Greg's wife in here and I had marked them as in a relationship and I click co-buyer, it would go, hey, did you want to include his wife? And I go, oh yeah, and I just click her name because it would know. That's one of those small quality of life things that relationship function affords you, right? But if I don't, I can type in, if I say, oh, Greg was actually doing this deal with, I think I used Ashley as the person I picked on last week. Yeah. So if I don't want to say Ashley and Greg were in this deal together, I can still just put her in. Now, the follow-up question to that is, well, hold on. What if I'm doing like an estate thing and I have like 5 people, right? You can't ever add more than 2 to the opportunity, so just pick your 2 favorite, right? When it comes to the actual paperwork itself, that part you can handle in DocuSign. You can add as many people as you want, right? As far as contracts goes. But for the opportunity in command, you're stuck with the 2. Yeah. Okay. Actually.
Hey, Evan, actually, one more question. Will
Yeah,
will adding a co-buyer like give that co-buyer equal weight in terms of the opportunity? Like, will it create 2 clients, or is it a primary client with someone who's associated on it?
They're about the same. I mean, as far as the client's actually concerned, they don't see any of this,
Cool.
right? So it's like, for them, it doesn't matter. It has some things that it does with the mobile app, but honestly, the relationship function covers all that already, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, the person who's client 1 and co-buyer or co-seller, whatever it is, when you go to the paperwork and you look at the auto fields, like there's seller 1, there's seller 2, it just puts the primary one in 1 and the secondary one in 2.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Opportunity name. All right, so this one's important because it also autofills with something automatically. It puts the primary client in. Now I'm using that word primary. It puts the first client in and puts a hyphen, and it puts in what type they are. You don't want to keep that. We want to put an address in. This is actually a compliance thing. So this is actually specific to the Nashville Market Center. Okay. So in here, we are going to take that out and we're going to put in, Greg, what's your 3rd vacation home? Is that 32 White House Drive, right? Is that the address? Yeah, we'll say, or 1 Pennsylvania Avenue. Right? Oh man. So we want to put in the street address, okay? So if you don't put the street address in, you go submit it for compliance, even if you have all the files correctly, they will bounce it back and say, hey, you changed the name. Okay, so let's do that now. Now you might be thinking, well, Evan, this is a buyer opportunity, and we had an appointment. There's not a house under contract yet. There is no address. If that's the case, cool. Just leave it there. That's fine. You can always come back and change the name. Okay, that's not a big deal. From this point forward, anything after those first 4, any of these details, we can go back and change later. Okay. But street address, before you submit it for compliance, you put the street address in there. Don't feel the need to put in the entire address. The street address will be fine. Custom tags. Now, you guys know how I feel about tags. You know how much I love them. I'm obsessed with tags. I build entire businesses off of tags, systems off of tags. But what are custom tags and opportunities? Because I might have Greg tagged as Sphere in my database, but that Sphere tag didn't come in. And if I type in Sphere, oh, I do have one. Darn it. Let's do buyer. Yeah, so I don't have a buyer tag, right? It works the exact same way as the tags do in the contacts, but they're a different thing, right? Opportunity tags are tagging the opportunity. It's a different set of tags, and how you might use them. I like to use tags like luxury if I know it's a luxury deal. Personally, for me, or like first-time home buyer, VA, FHA, I like to put what kind of financing it is. It just helps me sort things later. I love to put what kind of vendors I used. So like, for example, if I knew this was closing with, we'll just do Rudy Title. Yeah, I'll just pick them out of a hat. So if I have a situation where I had a closing Rudy Title and it came up and it didn't work out, and now I'm afraid my other deals with them might be at risk, I can go to my all list. I can just filter by Rudy Title, and I see all my deals that I've used them. Quick and easy way to get that data, right? Very quick and easy way. I also like putting in things like what type of financing they get. It's all cash, FHA, VA, conventional. I like putting in other vendors like my home inspector. The reason why I do this is it really helps me at like the end of the year. If I want to know how many deals I sent a certain vendor, I can just come into my opportunities and filter by that tag. I can actually see the list. And I can just count them. I can go, oh, cool, I did 10 over there. Helps me out a lot. It's not required though. You don't have to do it. I'll make sure that's clear. Not everybody is super into tags like I am. Estimated close date, time frame. These are just things that things to track. We got budget and we got commission rate. Okay, let's say this was a listing. What would I put this commission rate at? What's the standard rate?
3.
Trick question.
That's a trick question. Yeah.
Oh, there is no standard. Okay, I got you. Never mind. Forget it.
Oh, I do it every month. It always works.
Trying to get me in trouble with track. There is no set rate. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I like to point out is that when people hear listing, they often think somewhere around like the ballpark of like 6, whatever the listing agreement says the commission amount is, right? Is what they want to put here. I want to correct that line of thinking is mainly what I'm trying to get here, which is that this is the commission rate that we expect to get at the end of the deal, right? So if it's 3, right? But I wouldn't come in here, if the listing agreement said 6, I wouldn't put 6 here, right? Because probably going to be giving some amount of that commission over to a buyer's agent. And then last but not least, and Sarah, thank you for being a good sport. I appreciate it. I'm going to put a budget in for, we'll say, $2.5 million. That's about what that house is worth there. The White House, $2.5 million. It's probably worth more, but we're going to say 2.5. I'm not a very good appraiser at all. So this budget times the commission rate, gosh, we sure can see where this is going to go later, right? Where this is going to lead us to, because that's going to give us our estimated income off a deal that we can track. So opportunity phase, opportunity stage. Okay, remember this is why I start the class going over the pipeline, because you have to know at least what the heck these things are to make a first opportunity, all right? So when I click phase, it gives me the first 3, cultivate, appoint, and inactive. But hold on, why can't I put under contract or close? And this is just a little bit on the nose, which is that if it were an under contract deal, you would have already made it, right? That's kind of the idea there. If it was under contract, you would have already made it. Now, if for whatever reason you were using a different, transaction software and you were like, no, this deal actually is under contract, just put it in active. You can move it after you make it. Not a big deal, right? But on the creation screen, it's going to be between the first three. And then depending on which phase you pick, you're going to get the stages that are inside that phase. I'm going to do appointment and say that we kept our appointment is the phase and stage that I'm going to use, because that's pretty realistic. That's when a lot of people decide they want to make their opportunity, is when they go on an appointment, right? Because that's when paperwork is going to start becoming a thing that they're thinking about. At this point, we've told the system everything that we need to in order to make this opportunity. So I'm just going to hit the create button. Anybody have any questions about what we went over there for the creation of an opportunity? Thoughts, concerns, feelings, emotions?
I have a thought, well, a question. So if you're dealing with a buyer and like it's the beginning of you just kept your meeting or whatever, for the address, would you just put like their home address and then edit it later when they're like buying a property? Change it to that address?
Yeah, if you don't, so the street address has to be the name of it when you're submitting it, right, for compliance. Before that, it doesn't matter. Like, if you want to name it something else, that's fine. If you want to name it just their name, that's totally fine, right? Because if you don't have an address yet, well, you don't have one yet, right? I'm not going to put not applicable for 15 different, opportunities. So it's just up to you, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so it could be their name, and then before you submit it, like putting an offer in on a property, you can put that property address in.
So if you're submitting for compliance, meaning that like I'm trying to get my file reviewed so I can get paid, at that point it has to be the street address.
Okay.
At that point it has to be, right? Besides that, there's really no rule.
Okay. Perfect.
But if you submit it for compliance, you could have all the paperwork correct. If that compliance guy sees it's not the address, he'll bounce it back. It's just a policy. And it makes it, the reason why is that if you don't submit it with that address, it makes it really hard to find the file to review. That's the only reason why that's the rule. Yeah.
Okay.
So it just
Makes sense.
it helps you get your file reviewed faster, and it makes the guy that reviews 50 something files a day, it makes his life a little easier. That's pretty much why that's in there.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns, feelings, emotions? All right, cool. So we are in an opportunity, but wait, there's more. I'm going back to the pipeline. I want you guys to tell me how to get back to that opportunity. I want us to look on screen. Anybody wants to volunteer? Where am I going to get back to that opportunity? And you can't say the forward button because that's cheating. Benjamin was like, oh, that was going to be my thing.
Isn't it all opportunities and then you get a list?
Ooh, okay. So Buffy brings up a question or an answer that I wasn't looking for, but is correct, because all opportunities is a list view, and you can always go in and grab that opportunity. It is there. And this is where you can search and filter. It's super duper useful. I wasn't going to cover that today, but Buff, that's a really good point. But let's say I didn't have all opportunities. How would I get back to that one? Does anybody remember what type of opportunity I made?
Appointment.
Okay, that was the phase I put it in. So we know we're looking in this area. What
Sorry,
type of opportunity did I make? No, you're good, because that was gonna be the next question.
You're good. Buyer appointment. So
It was a buyer, right? So I know it's gonna be in my buyer pipeline, and oh, looky here, we just click there, and then the stage I put it in was an appointment kept, and there it is right there. To get back into it, I can go to all, like Buffy said, or I can come in here and do it, and I can click on that blue text where the name of the opportunity is, and that'll pull me right back into the screen. I like to point that out because a lot of people, if they don't understand that pipeline view, they'll make their opportunity, get confused, not know where it is. And I don't know why, but I have so many people that go and make a new one every time they come back in. Do not do that. Do not make a new one. If I come to help you and I find there's 3 copies of that opportunity, don't take it as an offense, but I will make fun of you. Okay. We will. It'll be in good humor, but yeah, I'll definitely go, why'd you make 3? We talked about this, Benjamin. Golly, man. All right.
it's just a bad habit. Hey, Evan, I do have one more question. Do you find agents, like when they set an appointment to be held with a buyer, are they putting in the dates here? Like, is that something worth being consistent about? And is there any functionality that's helpful once you do add the date?
Talk about that. Yep. Okay. So it's a good question. It's a good segue. That's what I was going to talk about next. That's perfect. So there's all these dates. So I want to point out real quick before I answer his question directly. I'm going to point out that let's look at this navigation bar we have here inside of here. There's several tabs that we have. We have details, buyer profile. This is related to the mobile app. Don't worry about it if you don't use it. Documents is where we're going to go a little bit later today. When you go on the DocuSign, you got offers and commissions where you get paid, notes, and then this timeline thing. The timeline thing is more useful for teams because it shows you an audit of everything that's happened and by who. So if like the deal, something is weird's happened, you can't track it down, and Benjamin's just like, I can't believe this. I got to fix this. You can go to the timeline and see what happened so that you can address what happened and make sure it never happens again, right? Processes and procedures. Outside that's everybody. Details is more or less where you end up. So your first default one, we know we're there because we got that blue line. And we have all of these things that we can keep up with. If we edit this general information, we're going to see, okay, well, I can't edit the market center. I can't edit the team, and I can't edit the owner. And the type is not even on here, right? So I can't edit those things, but I can go back and add tags. I can change who the contacts were that are on the deal. So at this point, it was like, I realized, oh my God, it's not my buddy Greg. It's actually my buddy Alex. I'm a complete moron. Oh my God, what did I do? I could just take Greg off the deal and put Alex in, right? A point, and then phase and stage. So if you don't want to drag and drop, you can actually just use these drop downs as well. And at this point, you now have all 5 phases you can pick from. So if you want to move them that way, you totally can. Let's talk about these dates. So you would want to use these dates in 2 situations. One, if you're just really heavy on tracking when things happen, if you're just really on reporting sake, then yes, you'd want to keep track of these dates. Also, the goals section of command, right, in reports where you set your goals, you would think, oh, when I move something into appointment, that's going to count towards my appointments. Not true. When you give it an appointment date, that's when it adds to your appointments count in goals. So it goes based on the dates that you put in. You guys following me? If you haven't been to goals in the goals section yet, that may not make any sense because you're like, well, what the heck? What am I looking for there? But if you've gone into goals and you've thought, well, heck, I've got like 5 opportunities in the appointment section. Why has my appointment number not gone up? It's because you haven't actually put a date in for the appointment. That's what it uses to track those. So to answer your question, Benjamin, if you want to do that, depends entirely on, am I using the goal tracking inside of command to track my goals? If not, then you don't have to worry about it. It's not required, right?
Oh, it's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. And we can enter our budget, we can enter our commission, and then finance. Oh, finance type is now a field. Okay. I guess stop using a tag for that then. Sweet. Go. We make edits. All right. I'm going to back out of that opportunity because we're going to get into the document section here in a little bit. We're going to talk about DocuSign, but I want to talk about a couple more things before I hop into that. I want to talk about what we can use the pipeline for to help us with our tracking, right? So right away, I mean, the first obvious one, where'd my annotation menu go? Come here, come back. No, not a line, a box. So right away, we can see it's counting how many appointments that I have in each phase and stage, right? I'm seeing that many there. I've also got over here on the right, and this is the thing that I personally love the most, which is the income prediction and income tracking, right? Let me clear all these drawings out. We've got a potential income in my pipeline of $39,000. How does that number get there? Who has a guess?
Isn't it like the further you get through the transaction, the percentage that you're going to close increases?
You're one step ahead of me.
It's the purchase price times the commission rate.
Right, yeah, Greg's got it. So it's looking at every single one of my opportunities that I have in here. It's looking at what I put down for either budget or for estimated list price or for like contract price. It's times it by the commission that I gave in there, and it's just adding all of them up, right? And it's giving me a potential income. Now, Sarah, you've got the right answer to my next question, which is normally a bit more trickier, which is it's got a probable income of $17,000. Well, how does that number get there? And what Sarah was saying was that the closer something gets to closing, the more it's going to contribute to that number. And I'll show you what that looks like here. On every single stage, there is this little percentage guy on every stage. And it's called probability, which is that from this stage, how likely is it to close? And if I come to cultivate, we'll see these numbers are really low. And when I get under contract, these numbers are much higher. Now, it's not actually calculating your probabilities right now. It will in the future, but right now you're setting those numbers. Okay. So if you come in and you're like, dude, my under contract rate is actually a lot lower than 90%, you may want to adjust those numbers so that you can get a more accurate prediction. But basically what it is that if I have a ton of opportunities in cultivate, which I am likely to have, because I could have a ton of opportunities that I'm cultivating, right? But I have less as I go on. I mean, you're in employment and active, the closer I get to closing, the more that number is being weighed. So it's got an additional factor if it's timesing it by its opportunity or by its probability. So the joke I like to tell is potential income is where my dreams are, and probable income is what I tell my spouse. Hey-o, spouse humor. Okay. Benjamin's reaction to these Cordy jokes is making my day, and I love it. Just the hearty har. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about editing these stages, right? Now, if you are a brand new agent, don't do this yet. Okay. If you're brand new to real estate, you probably don't want to mess with this yet. You want to get more of a feel for how your process is. I would just use the defaults for now. But if you've been in business for a while, right, you've probably got a pretty good idea of how your transactions flow, right, and what your stages are and how you want them to appear, because you can fully edit these. So I'm in the active phase of the listing pipeline, and I'm going to come to edit stages here, and I'm going to see my stages that I have for this particular phase. I got pre-listing, live on MLS, negotiations, and legacy. And if you can delete legacy, by the way. It's an old feature that we don't use anymore. So I've got these three phases. So to me, the way I think about a listing being active is I think of, okay, we got a signed agreement that's coming soon. I've got it when it's live on MLS, and then I've got it where I'm getting offers. That's how I have divvied up that thought, right? You might be a little more detailed than me, or you might be less. And that's okay. Just customize it to your thing. I can also set the probability, right? So if I know what my rate, if I'm calculating and doing a good job of knowing what my conversion rates are, which I should be, right? As a real estate agent, if I'm treating my real estate business like a business, right? I'm going to put those in. That's going to help me maintain my probable incomes and give me a better idea of my income protection. There's also this checklist, and this is where it really takes off. To me, this is the feature and opportunities to be using, right? Especially for teams, because teams have well-documented processes and procedures for how deals should be handled. So if I come in my pre-listing checklist, I've got, let's get rid of this drawing. If I go my pre-listing checklist, I've got stage the listing, schedule photos, get sign on lockbox, and let the stager in. I'm just putting in some examples, right? So you might have a pretty long list of things that you're going to do in pre-listing. You can put those in here. What that's going to do is that every single time an opportunity enters this stage, those tasks are going to be generated for that opportunity. Very handy. Now, they won't appear in your task list until you give them a due date. I'll show you what that looks like. Once you give them a due date, it'll go, okay, cool. It's going to remind you to do those things. And if you're on a team, you can assign the tasks to different team members so that everyone who's involved in the transaction is getting the notifications of what to do and when. And the final piece around this is that some of these tasks can have this client update box checked. What client update is going to do is that every week it's going to send your client an update of all the different items that have been completed that are part of client update. So if I had a not every single one of them has to be client update, by the way. So if I had a checkbox that said argue with the lender, I didn't want necessarily my client to be aware of that. I don't have to check the client update box, right? It won't include that in the email updates. But if I want to let them know at the end of the week, automatically, without me having to do anything, that the photos have been scheduled and yada, 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 right? All that kind of stuff. All that can automatically happen just as I'm naturally checking off my to-do list items. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. You can also add stages. You can remove stages. You can edit stages. You can change the order of the stages. You get the idea there. That part's all pretty straightforward. And if you need more help, anytime you see this guided tour thing, you can always click it because it'll walk you through the same stuff I'm telling you with the purple blobs. So if you get back to this later and you're like, oh, I forgot, just click the guided tour. Most pages have a guided tour. Like, oh, I want to learn about editing stages or pipelines, right?
How'd you get to that again? That list, how'd you get there?
Where we just were?
Yeah,
I went into a phase, and now I'm going to edit the stages of that
Oh.
phase.
got it. Thank you.
So if I did this and now I want to go edit my under contract, I need to go to under contract first and then hit that button.
Okay.
'Cause I'm only seeing what's in my under contract at this point. So each phase has its own set of stages that you can edit. The rule of thumb is this: phases cannot be edited. Phases are the phases. Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, close. That is what they are. The stages inside of them, however, can absolutely be customized. Right? So if you're thinking about adopting this, I would say take a look at what your already documented procedures are, and you can shape this app to flow exactly. If you're on Trello right now, you can pretty much recreate Trello inside of here, what you're doing Trello for. If you're using Trello for like deal management.
Hey, Evan, are those client updates, are those like customizable emails that you populate, or is this something that's an automated update from command?
So right here, I got this client updates thing, the little settings wheel. Most of it's pretty automated.
Cool.
Let's see if it takes me there. Is that link broken? Oh, Benjamin. Making me show off the broken stuff. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So important steps. This is going to kind of show you what all this works, right? So every opportunity you have to have that client update thing on for it to do that, right? So you could choose like for like, let's say particular Sally seller is just like, I don't want a bunch of email from you. You can make it where that opportunity doesn't ever do it, right? And then this is when they send from the owner and send to primary or client. So it doesn't look like you can actually like edit the email design, but you can change the rules that you can do an email template from designs. Oh, you can only pick the default. So you can preview what it looks like. This is what that email looks like. So it is fairly robotic. It's not super personalizable yet. But it is a good feature to play with. Okay. All this Zoom interface, I'm constantly moving around. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about things that enter closed. Okay. When you move an opportunity into closed, it is going to ask for a close date. It will do that so it counts towards your goals, and it just has to have it in order for it to process. Once it's in closed, it will not remain there forever. It will eventually, every month, come off the pipeline. Every month, it'll just wipe out what's in that closed phase. Now, your opportunity is not gone. It's just no longer in pipeline view. You will always find it in all. So you'll see everything that's ever been in your pipeline. I want to repeat that again. You will never lose an opportunity unless you actively go to archive it. And even then, it's not deleted. It goes into the opportunity archive. You can never fully delete an archive or delete an opportunity for obvious reasons. There's contracts in them. But if I got a bunch of deals that have closed, the reason why they come up the pipeline view is that a year from now, if I'm using this and this is really good, my closed phase is going to be out of control. And my income prediction becomes kind of useless because it's just showing me every bit of income I've ever made. It's supposed to look forward, right? It's supposed to be a windshield, not a rear view. But all is more like I need to go look at my data. I need to look at all my opportunities I've ever seen. Now, if you're on a team, this will show you your personal ones and your team ones. It'll show you every single opportunity that your account has access to, no matter where it is. So all is quite a special view. And you could filter, lots of good stuff in here. What market center, include archives. You can unarchive things from here, create a date range, close dates, that kind of stuff. I could say, let's show me things that closed next month, this month, last month, next year, last year. All kinds of like, if you get really creative with the filters, there's not a report you can't generate just by setting your filters and looking at the list. And if you want even more reports, there's the reports tab where you can go into opportunity reports, get more details. And you can search. You can search by address. You can search by assignee, contacts. If I'm like, oh, I don't remember where I named it, but I know it was for Greg. I just say that to contact, type in Greg, and there it is. Very useful. Last thing I'm going to mention is the bottom little things here. My stuff out of the way. Give me, guys. Okay. So I've got activity, which this is just showing me what's currently in my pipeline. So if the deal closes out, it comes out of my pipeline, and I'm adding new deals to my pipeline. If I archive something because it's whatever, it comes out. But it's showing me what are all my active opportunities. How am I doing? It gives you kind of an idea over the course of time how your business is doing. Hopefully your graph goes up. Right, up is good. We like graphs that go up to the moon. And then we got ratio, which just is kind of showing us essentially how much my business is listings, how much of it is buyers. I can use this information to go back and update my goals, because goals is going to ask you what kind of ratios you're expecting. So if what you put in doesn't match what you see here, you might want to go update that, right? So it's calculating it for you. And then we see listings and our incomes, and it shows us our total probable potential incomes. And then down here at the bottom, closing this month, so we can get a short view of all the opportunities that we know are closing this month. The last thing I'm going to mention before we hop into DocuSign is archiving and marking opportunities as lost. Two different things. We archive an opportunity when it's an oopsie. We've made a mistake, right? This opportunity here is in listings. Uh-oh, this was a buyer. I need to remake this opportunity. I would click on there and I'd click archive. That's going to remove it from my list. It's going to take it off all my numbers, but it won't count against my conversion rates because it was never real to begin with. It was an accident, right? But if I want to track my conversion rates, if I come into the opportunity, I can mark the opportunity as lost over here. That's going to do the same thing. That's going to pull it off my pipeline, but it's going to actually remain in my all, and it's going to show it as a, oh, okay, we missed this one. Good for tracking my conversion rates.
What phase would that stay in?
It would come out of the phases altogether. It would stay wherever it is. Like it would show you whatever. And it's phase active, right? Stage this, but it won't be in the list anymore, like on the pipeline view. It'll still be in all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All without fail is going to show you every opportunity you have access to. Now, if you accidentally archive something, just go into all and filter by archived opportunities and unarchive it, or go into your settings, go to opportunity settings, go to the archive there and unarchive it. And you'll find the difference between the contact archive and the opportunity archive is that contact archive you can delete, opportunity archive you cannot. You can never delete an opportunity. Okay, questions, thoughts, concerns, feelings, emotions before we dive into the DocuSign. Feeling good? Feeling sharp? Sweet. Okay. Good deal.
You're just so thorough, Evan. We have no questions.
Yeah, I'm just such a great teacher. You know, that's what it is for sure. I'm gonna need somebody to humble me real quick. You guys don't know what kind of ego monster you're creating.
No, nobody humbles the tech ninja.
No, I got humbled hard this week. I'll say that. I had a moment of overconfidence that made me look really stupid in front of really smart people.
Yeah, happens to the best of us.
Life, baby. It's life. It's how it goes. All right. So let's talk about getting contracts signed. Let's talk about documents. We're going to the documents tab inside of an opportunity. Okay. Now with DocuSign, I'm going to go to the Greg one. With DocuSign, we first need to make sure that in settings, we have DocuSign connected. So I'm going to settings and I'm looking and I'm seeing that, okay, yes, indeed, I have a DocuSign account and it is currently connected. This is the email address of the DocuSign account that I have. There should not be anybody in this room right now that doesn't have this. So if you don't, hold that thought, email me, and we will go over how to get that connected. Please do not go to DocuSign.com and make an account at DocuSign. Do not do that. Make your account through this interface and I'll send you a video. You have to follow some very specific steps. It's not hard. It just has to be done a certain way or you will create a lot of work for yourself. And when I say a lot of work for yourself, it's like a month's worth of work. It's absolutely obnoxious.
Where was the settings? I'm sorry.
You're good. Click your name, click settings. Takes you to this screen here. And applications is the screen it takes you to by default. The very first one should be DocuSign. It should look just like mine. If it does not, please email me. I will send you a video of what you need to do next. Now, I believe, Buffy, that you guys use Dotloop, correct?
Actually, we have one through the MLS and it's called Transaction Desk, but Katie and I discussed getting to know DocuSign to see which one's better.
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
That's the entire reason I'm here today.
Good deal. Very good. Yeah. So DocuSign and Transaction Desk are really similar. Now, one thing to bear in mind when it comes to opportunities, it comes to Command and KW, it does not matter where you get your paperwork done at. Right? You can get your paperwork done in Dotloop. You can get it. You can print it out and get it hand signed for all I care. It does not matter. All that matters is that compliance will be held in the opportunity. Okay, that is where we communicate compliance. Now, I will say best practice is to use DocuSign because it does make your life quite a bit easier, and we pay for the account for you, so it's free for you. There's no reason not to try it, right? That being said, though, we're running businesses first and foremost. So if like learning new transaction management software is not up your alley and it's going to cause disruption in your business, don't worry about it. There's no pressure, right, to make a switch immediately. Okay. But if you're using Dotloop, I will judge you. All right. Moving right along. Yeah, laugh it up, Benjamin. Don't pay Zillow for the privilege of them getting your data for free. Right? If you want to do that, just email them all your transaction data, right? They'll take that. You don't have to pay them for it. All right. So if that's connected, we're all good. Let's go back to opportunities. Best practice when you have DocuSign hooked up is not to go to DocuSign.com and create rooms. Okay? It's not like going to Dotloop where you just go to Dotloop.com, make a loop. Your best practice, if you're going to do it in conjunction with Command, is to come into Command, make the opportunity first, and make the transaction off the opportunity. And this rings true if you're on Dotloop too, because Dotloop does have a connection, right? So if you are using Dotloop, you can connect it to Command and it'll work the same way. Transaction Desk does not, but you could still upload, download, and upload documents, yeah. So I'm going to go into that thing with Greg. We're going to sell 32 White House Road. So I'm in Greg's opportunity here. I'm going to come over to documents. And I see here, I just see exclude this. I get so many questions from folks that'll get to this screen and go, uh-oh, I only see the buyer rep agreement in here. Where's everything else, right? I want to first bring our attention over here to these three folders, okay? There's consultation, there's under contract, and there's closed. This is our compliance checklist. This is also not where you go to fill these documents out, not this screen, right? I click buyer rep here and I open it up. This is just we only put these in here as samples so that if you get to a point and you're just like, oh my God, I've completely forgotten what this form is, we'll say, hey, it's this one, remember? You'll be like, oh, okay, good. There's some really smart people in this room. So I don't think it's ever going to happen to you guys, but it is there for you just in case. Now, we are going to talk more about all interacting with this interface next week during compliance and commissions class. Today, we're skipping this part and coming over to this little guy right here, this little button here, our friends start a transaction, right? This button creates the DocuSign room. It also connects that DocuSign room to this opportunity. which affords us a lot of convenience because the room got made for us with all of the details. And I think I have a pop-up blocker. So okay, this is perfect. So if you click that button like me and nothing happens, look up here. Or if you're on Chrome, it'll be over here. If you're on Chrome, it'll say, "Oh my God, you got a pop-up blocker. Just come in here and allow the pop-ups." And, oh my God, it worked. That's all that was. So you log into your account. Ooh, this is going to be fun. Oh, good deal. My password manager is working. Okay, cool. Got me right in. Use a password manager. Saves you so much time and so much hassle. Makes you more secure. It's 2021. Just putting that out there. If you want a reference for that, just hit me up. Okay. So notice it's brought me over into DocuSign now. It's already created it with the name of it. If I come into details, my people are already here. This is a buyer opportunity, right? So buyer 1, I got Greg. And I got Greg's email. I don't have to type it in again. And I got Ashley Baird. And I got Ashley Baird's email. I don't have to type it in again. It's just going to copy the information that I've already put in command. And it's going to just throw it right in the DocuSign for me. Super convenient. Now, I want to talk very quickly about those that use dotloop, because this is a thing that you're going to do. You're going to come to people section first, because in dotloop, we go to the people section first, right? We go there and we add our people. In DocuSign, you don't do that, right? And this is where a lot of people get thrown off. They'll come here. I get so many calls about this. Evan, I came to people. My buyer's not here. I want to add them. It's being weird. It won't let me. What do I do? And I go, you stop doing that is what you do, right? The people section is not like dotloop. In dotloop, it's absolutely required. You got to put them in there. It doesn't work. In DocuSign, this is just a list of people that have access to this room. I would hope your client is not on this, right? I would hope the cooperating agent is not in here. I really would. This is more like if you're used dotloop and you're familiar with the on my team function, it's much more similar to that than it is a list of people who are involved in the transaction. And you're going to hear me make a lot of dotloop comparisons in this class, because oftentimes in DocuSign class, I'm talking to KW agents that are switching from dotloop to DocuSign. So you're going to hear a bit of that today. If you have a different preferred software transaction solution, I'm not as familiar with it probably. And so please forgive me if I don't make a lot of references to it. All right. Now, the first thing I do in DocuSign on any time I make a DocuSign room is the first thing I do is I go to the details section. And this is the same thing back in the day in my dotloop class. I don't think anybody here ever went to those, because I don't think we knew each other then. But back in the day, I used to always say, go to details first. Why? Because autofill is great and we love it. It saves us a ton of time, right? In DocuSign, it's the same concept, right? Now, autofill works a bit differently in DocuSign versus how it does in dotloop. It works quite a bit differently, but I think it's a lot more robust, because in dotloop, you have to prompt it, right? The first time you open a file, it wants you to autofill, and then anytime you want it to autofill again, you hit the button. In DocuSign, it's a bit different. In DocuSign, the details of the room and the forms of the room are always in sync. It is never a prompt. If I update a detail in here, it will simultaneously update every form in my room. And when I update a form, it will update the details, which will update all the other forms. Personally, I think it's brilliant, and I think it's way better. It has saved me tons of time, and it also means that the more I work on a room, the faster and faster it gets, because it just builds momentum, because it's just remembering everything, right? And DocuSign is not trying to compete with me. Anyway, moving on. I come into details, and the very first thing I like to do is come in here and look at this whole sidebar section, because this is much more like the people section of dotloop. Here's a list of all the roles and put their information in. Your information and a bunch of other information should already be in here, just from the fact that you created it off the opportunity. If you go into DocuSign directly, which I hope you aren't doing, but if you do that, you will notice that none of that information will be there. It won't be, right? You'll have to type it all in. So it saves you a lot of time to do it this way. Now, location, I'm just going to put in an address here for location. I'm going to give it I'm going to hit edit. so I can go in and add some things. I always say you're not going to know everything, and please don't feel the need to type in every single detail. You probably don't know all of them yet. It's fine, right? I'm going to put in here, we're going to put 32 White House Drive. We're going to call address line 2 apartment. No, we're going to say number 7689. That's the penthouse of whatever of Greg's third vacation home. And I don't know if Greg has vacation homes, guys. I'm just going to make, we're going to a fourth vacation home, excuse me. All right, city, we're going to say Malibu, California, whatever. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm going to say Malibu, Tennessee. I'm sure there is one. Who knows? Also code 123456, very exclusive neighborhood. I'm gonna put that information in. I'm just gonna hit save at the bottom. Gotta move a bunch of stuff. Make sure you always hit save. Now this works with everything else. Notice it already pulled in my contract amount too. It works with everything else. I'm not gonna update every single field in here. I'm just trying to get a point across. Once I finish the details section, I come over to documents. Come over into documents. Now, if you have not validated your TAR membership inside DocuSign, you're going to get to a really hard stopping point here because you're going to be like, whoa, I don't have any TAR forms. And that's going to be your first lesson in DocuSign is way more secure than .loop is. .loop is very loosey-goosey with the rules. In DocuSign, they respect copyright, and if you're not a TAR member, you don't get to use TAR forms, and that's how it's supposed to be, right? So when you guys click, before I move forward, what I'm going to do really fast, this is a one-time thing that every account must do. You must come to the top right. You do it once, and you never do it again. You come in up here at the very top right to your initials. You click Preferences. And Greg, we did this with you, I think, on Monday, so you don't have to worry about this. Come in. You come to Integrations. And everyone should see this NRDS ID box, and it should be all filled out. It should look a little bit like mine. Disregard the warning message. It's a bug that just always shows up. It's not a real warning. You redraw that box. Box changes size. Okay, does anybody in here got to this screen and it's blank on this box? If it is, please email me. I have a video. It's step by step. It's really easy. You just need to put in your NRDS ID, your last name, and the association. Hit save. It'll update, and boom, there you go. You got TAR forms. That fast.
Excuse me, Evan.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I went to get a banana, and I totally missed where you got into DocuSign from Command.
Okay. Back in Command here. There's a little black button that is at the top right of the document screen. It says start a transaction. You click that, it'll pull you to the connected DocuSign account. If it's grayed out, that means you don't have a connected DocuSign account. You can't use the button. And you'll need to email me. Now mine says go to transaction now. Go ahead. Oh, you just muted yourself.
I'm there. I brought up DocuSign.
Okay, good. Very good. So back here. So when I was in the integration section looking at this, if this was blank, that means you don't have TAR forms. You really can't use DocuSign. It's going to be kind of a pain in the butt. You only have KW forms, and KW doesn't make purchase and sale contracts, right? KW has RESPA disclosures and things of that nature. Right, so make sure that's there. If you don't have TAR forms, if you can't get to your TAR forms, please just email me later. I will send you a video. It takes 2 minutes to do that. I'm gonna go back now. And once you do it once, you never have to do it again. So we're going to assume from this point that everyone's good and everybody has that. We're just going to move past that. Let's add a document to a room. I'm going to click add. Now I have several different places that I can add a document, right? I can pull it from my computer. If, like, let's say Benjamin sent me a purchase and sale contract on this. Or if I can add that way. Or if I'm writing the document, I'm going to always pull it from DocuSign Forms. If you are the source of the document and you're typing it up, you pull from DocuSign Forms, okay? So DocuSign Forms, boom. please disregard zip forms. If you're from a state that uses zip forms and you're in Tennessee now, I'm gonna tell you, Tennessee does not have a relationship with zip forms, so don't bother with it. You won't get anywhere. Trust me, I spent 5 hours on it, so you don't have to. I felt really stupid when I was told by TAR that there wasn't a relationship, because I was like, it doesn't make that clear. Okay, we pull from DocuSign forms, and in here you'll see what libraries you have access to. In my case, I had KW forms, and I had the Tennessee Association of Realtor forms because my membership is validated. If you're missing this box right here, then, okay, again, that's because that area over there was blank, and you just need to email me and we'll get you that button, okay? Now, TAR forms is, well, it's literally every single TAR form. There's quite a bit of them. There's 300 of them to be exact, right? 300 plus. I shouldn't say to be exact. We're going to say to be estimated, right? This is not a great way to find contracts. I like to use these groups that are up here. This is way, 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 way easier to do because in here, if I come to the purchase and sale pack, I will find all the forms I need from both libraries that are typically commonly used for buyers, right? Same thing for listing packet, same thing for lots, land, and new construction. And I believe the COVID thing is no longer required, but please check with your broker on that. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab the exclusive buyer representation agreement. And I'm going to grab, actually, we're going to totally do that. I should have done a listing. There's an example I want to show that I'm not going to get a chance to now. It's okay. Let's do buyer's final inspection. No, let's just do that in purchase and sale. Let's keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Where is purchase and sale again? Where are you? There you are. So I can select multiple documents. I can select all of them. And I'm just going to add them in here. Now I can also, if I've got my form templates made, I can pick from my templates, right? On how I want it to pull, but I'm just going to pull in the blank ones for now. We'll talk about form templates before we leave today, I promise. Because that's like super key. One of the big reasons why I loved Dotloop so much was their template variety that you could do. And I am so happy to say that you can do that in DocuSign now. It wasn't always the case. All right, so I pulled these documents in my room. I want to quickly, real quick, just notice the blue little icon here. We're going to come back to that a little bit later and talk about what these icons are. Right now, don't worry about it. It's hard to explain till like we get an example of, there's different ones. But I have these blue forms in here, and I'm going to open up the exclusive buyer representation agreement. And I will notice that the details from my details section are already in here because, again, there's no prompt. It's just always in sync, right? It's just always in sync.
Hey, I've got a quick question about that. I know in Dotloop, if you change anything on a form that's already been signed, it'll basically kick off all the signatures and need to be re-signed. Is there anything that happens if you change the details section on the very front section? And
this is where DocuSign is a bit more like transaction desk. So when you get something signed, it creates a whole new version that's uneditable.
That's the envelope feature, is that right?
We're going to go through that here in a bit. Yeah, we have to use envelopes. When you get through an envelope, you get a new finished product. The form will never have signatures.
Cool.
But the signed versions will. That's a really good question because yeah, Dotloop, I have definitely done that where I kicked off signatures when I hit the front instead of hitting cancel.
Totally.
I hit confirm, and I'm like, oh, hey, Betty Buyer. I hope you enjoyed filling that paperwork out because we're gonna do it again. All right. So notice how in here, like how there's no name here. Don't freak out about that. It does add it here, but I'm just gonna put this here to show this feature off. So because that field's tied to a detail, it updated every other field that's tied to that detail. That's the case for every single form. That's how that works. I mean, it is instant, guys. It is instant. Yeah. So I'm gonna put in 3%, yada yada. Greg, you ready to buy a house with me? Or did I actually? I picked buyer, didn't I? I did. Okay. So we're gonna buy this. We're gonna buy your third vacation home. I had this whole thing backwards this whole time. All right. So I got buyer.
Since you just did this was a random question I had earlier on the compensation piece. I noticed that it would only receive numerical values. And for example, in .loop, we used to put in 3% plus 495 admin fee or plus 495. Do you know any ways around that?
Yeah, so that's going to be more handled on the actual commission requests, not so much in the things that you would normally track in the opportunity. So it's not going to track that as income, but when you go to do a commission request, we'll talk about that next week. Yeah, you will. There is a space for that because.
Well, and I just meant on this form specifically though, in DocuSign.
Ask the broker specifically how, but like the way I've always known it is you put in the special stipulations, right?
Okay.
The speeds there. That's how I've always known to do it. If you guys have a different way, I don't think there's a field it's tied to. No.
I just mean that if it only receives numerical, there's no way to like force it, right?
No, and in this case, like it's the percentage because that percentage is going to go on the form where it goes. Because I don't put 3% plus. You put 3% plus 495. Is that how you do that?
That's how they've been doing it here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just like if you were handwriting
That's
it.
yeah. That one I have never done it that way, so I don't have advisement for you on that one. I've always put the amount in the special stipulations that I'm collecting for that, any kind of admin fee or broker added commission. But I would ask your broker, and then I don't think. I mean, I'm assuming because I can put plus here. Oh, this is invalid number, but it's not gonna let me save it, right? Oh no, yeah, okay. So there. Okay, yeah, I see your problem. Okay, so what I'm going to say for this is there's a way around this in envelopes.
Okay.
That I'll show you in just a little bit. There's a way to, because in envelopes, I can just put a text field wherever I want and it'll work.
Thank you.
Yeah. That'll at least get you by it to where you can use it. It'll be slightly inconvenient for you, but it won't be too bad. Okay, so let's just pretend I filled this thing out super great. Save and close. And when I come to purchase and sale agreement, I just wanted to, all I'm pulling this up is just so we can see that it pulled in the addresses, right? And then also that detail from earlier that I was talking about. I just wanted to use that one as the example of how it's just always updated. The moment you hit save, it'll update the other forms as well. And that's just how that works. Now, the other thing about .loop, I get this call a lot too from .loop, is they'll come down here and they'll go, where are my signature fields, right? Ooh, that's my favorite call. Because in documents, we don't get anything signed in the forms. We don't get things signed in documents. That's like a difference in .loop and DocuSign. It's two different ways of solving the same problem. The way .loop handles it is that they use a Google Drive-like sharing system where you give people access to documents and certain permissions, right? In DocuSign, they use an envelope process, right? So it's just a little bit different. I just want to point that out because I get that question all the time, which is I don't know how to get something signed. And if that's the case, that means you just never heard of envelopes because envelopes are how we get things signed in DocuSign, right? And for transaction desk, Buffy, this is kind of the same thing of having DocBox and then going into AuthentiSign. Same kind of concept there, right? So we come to envelopes and it's going to say, hey, the analogy here is, all right, we're gonna take an envelope, we're gonna put documents in it, and we're gonna go take it to our seller, right? So that's like the analogy that they're going for on this. So let's create a new envelope. Let's get those forms signed, shall we? Okie dokie. So we've opened up an envelope. I've hit new. And this is kind of like the other way I like to phrase it is this is a more advanced save and share menu. Like in .loop. That's how I like to phrase it. So I'll give the envelope a name. The envelope name is completely irrelevant. It has no mechanical bearing on the envelope. That being said, your clients will see it. So don't say something like jerk bags purchase. Swear to God, he better sign this, right? Wouldn't do something like that. But I would put in Greg, nice guys. Just kidding, messing around. It's like Greg, purchase, offer one, right? Whatever. I can do that. Cool. Now we got to add documents to the envelope. Okay. Now, 99% of the time, we're just going to use room docs and move right along. Okay. You will see though that there is this use a template button. Do not ever use this button. Okay. And chances are you won't get anywhere with it because there's nothing here, right? For you guys, it won't be. This is not the same thing as templates in .loop. So if you're looking for form templates, that's going to be in form templates. Is a different thing. This is envelope templates. It's not what you're looking for, I promise. I spent way too much time on that before I learned that. But now you don't have to. You can learn from my mistakes. Okay. I got plenty of them. All right. So I can also add directly, I can upload a form. So if Benjamin emailed me an offer on my listing, I don't have to first add that offer to the room docs and then pull it in the envelope. I can just add it directly to an envelope, or I can throw into documents, pull it from room docs, and hey, these are the docs that are in my room currently that can go through an envelope. You will note that things that are signed that have already been through envelopes cannot be re-put back into an envelope. So you'll only see things that need to be signed, not things that are already signed. Okay. So if you got something signed, you're like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. You're starting over is what that means. There's no quick edit after the fact. There's much more security involved in DocuSign signatures. It's less convenient, but your lawyer will appreciate it if he ever has to get involved. All right, so I'm going to add the buyer rep and purchase and sale. Just throw them in here. Booyah, booyah. They come in like forms. What happened in that moment is it took a flat copy of what is in my documents and copied it into this envelope. The reason why I say it that way is that if I get in here and I discover that, oh my gosh, I've misspelled Greg's name, and I go back to documents and change how Greg's name is spelled, and then I come back into my envelope, I will notice those changes are not going to be reflected. I'll have to pull that document out and re-add it from room docs. It makes a copy of its current form and puts it in the envelope. Then we're going to add recipients to the envelope. And to me, this is the big money item. If there's any section of this class you pay attention to, please let it be this one. Okay? Because this is the difference between hours of work and 5 minutes of work. When you're adding recipients and you've got forms that you didn't DocuSign, you will see that pre-tagged roles is an option to add recipients by. Always use it. Always use pre-tagged roles. This is what determines who signs what and where. It's already on the form. Much like how .loop has everything, the fields are just all there and you assign people certain fields. In DocuSign, all of that's based on the role and what fields they get. Okay. If you come in and I say add email address, I can manually put somebody in here, but I'm going to have to give them all the fields they have to interact with. And if you really want a prime example of when this can be a huge pain in the butt, let's look at this through the lens of the property condition disclosure. Right? If you add them by email address, I have had people call me and say, is there any way I could just have those checkboxes in the PCD already there? We've had 3 contracts this week. I've had to do that. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. Yes, there is. And that must have been hours of time. Add by pre-tag roles. And you're also going to add yourself to the envelope. Because in .loop, you just hit sign where you sign, right, while you're editing the document. In DocuSign, everything, including what you do and how you sign, goes through the envelope. So I'm buyer agent. If I click this list, I'll find myself already in here just fine. I come to buyer 1, I'm going to add Greg. Buyer 2, I'm going to add Ashley. Very simple. This is going to automatically put where Greg needs to sign, it's going to already be there. Where I need to sign, it's going to already be there. Another .loop comparison, right? Needs to sign. We're familiar with clicking that and clicking needs to fill and sign when necessary. You'll notice needs to fill and sign is not on here because it's completely redundant in DocuSign. Because in DocuSign, if you don't need to fill it out, you don't have the field, period. Right? In .loop, the fields are there no matter what. And you got to tell people what permissions they have. In DocuSign, if you don't have to interact with it, it's just not there. Another thing that this will do that .loop does not do. Let's look at this little guy right here. You see these little ones over here? These are signing groups, and I can assign order. So if I want to sign this first and then had to go to my client, I can do this. So now I have to sign first, and then when I'm done with it, that's when Greg and Ashley will get the email. Transaction Desk does this too. Right? Signing group or signing orders and signing groups are super duper useful. Other comparison is, have you ever worked with an older couple or maybe a married couple where the guy must have screwed up at some point because the wife makes him share an email with her? Right? In .loop, two people can't share an email address. In DocuSign, doesn't matter. There will be two emails that go to that same email address addressed to one or the other, and they need to know how to do that, right? But you can put the same one. I can put Ashley Baird at kw.com on both of these. Very useful there. No more having to explain to somebody how to make a Gmail account. The signing order thing is really useful for a couple of reasons. I can put my co-op in here, my email address. If I want this offer to go right to the listing agent, I can just say gets a copy, and then put the let's just say I'll put a Benjamin Kaufman in this. It's a Benjamin, and I'm just gonna put Benji at otheragency.com, whatever. All right, so I can put him in like this and put him in signing group 3. So that I sign it, my client sign it, and when my last client is done, Benjamin will get a copy immediately. So offer delivered ASAP. Now, should you do that? That's up to you. However, how you want to communicate and how you want to send documents is entirely up to you. You can do it in the envelope, you can go do it in documents, or you can do what I do, which is I like to download things and send emails like a normal person. That's what I like to do. With it attached, because I like to put my messages in there, and I feel like email records are just much easier to communicate to a judge if needed. Okay. Last thing here, as much as shipping, which is just the email they all get. Great. Let's go to next. Once you click next, it takes you right into the envelope to where you can actually make some edits if you need to, right? So remember what I said earlier about this being a flat copy? Notice how everything that's in here, I can't edit. So if I misspelled Ashley's name, I have to go back and start over. Don't misspell your clients' names, right? But if I needed to add that plus 495, then what I could do is come over here, add a text box right next to this, and I can add plus 495. Not to play with it a little bit to get to fit. But that's how that would work. So I can't edit what's on here, but I can add another example of this is like special stipulations. As you guys saw earlier, it was like one field per line. Personally, I don't even write in the special stips anymore in documents. I just come into the envelope before I send it, and I put a box in special stipulations, and I type it in this way. This is how I do it. Doesn't make sense to me to do it like one line and then instead of hitting enter, go click the next line. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So I just say, nah, I don't like the way they do it that way. I just do a text box and type in it like normal. And we'll see the different fields have different color codes, which I think is much more visual. I actually like that. Right? I'll see that this is assigned to Greg. This is assigned to Ashley. Ashley's purple, Greg's blue. And if this was the PCD and Greg was seller 1, he'd have all of his fields that he could interact with. At this point, I'm ready to send it, right? Make any small adjustments that needed. You should not have to be making adjustments at this point. If you come in here and you find that you got to make a lot of edits, you are doing it wrong. You should have had all that done before you got to this point.
Evan, I missed that last bit. Were the signature fields already added once this was opened?
Yep, they're already there because I used pre-tag roles and only because I used pre-tag roles.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if I did this by email address, I'd be coming in here and putting boxes in for sure. So yeah, like I said before, if there's one lesson you take from today, please, for the love of God, let it be that one. Right? Okay. At that point, I would hit send. I'm not going to actually send it because I don't want to bother Greg and Ashley with sending it. I'm just going to come out of here and save and close. And we're going to talk about moving those documents back into command during compliance class next week. Greg, it looks like you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't mind if you send it because I'd kind of like to see what it shows up whenever I do sign.
Sure. Ashley, are you still there? Let's do this. Let's take Ashley out.
But it's not a big deal if nobody, or if it's not an issue.
No, we'll do it right now. It takes 5 seconds. We're still on time, so we're still doing good. Okay, I'm gonna hit send. And Greg, I believe what I did was I gave myself the first one. Okay, so as an agent, I hit send, right? It took me back to this screen where it says needs my signature. I just click here and I click sign. And Greg, you're not gonna get it until I sign it, so give me one moment. I think this marks the second agency agreement you and I have gotten into, but now I'm the agent. Okay, we're done. You're muted, bud.
Said we got a lot of money floating around between us.
I know, Greg. Doing a lot of business. Okay, you should now get that email now.
Got it.
If you would sign that for me real quick, just so we can kind of show what happens. So now it says we're waiting on others. I can see, you know, if he's viewed that and all that good stuff, the same way I would in Dot Loop.
And Evan, is the best practice, I guess you're adding all of these docs into one envelope, and when they sign, they'll just be scrolling through all documents together once, and then it's all done, as opposed to individual sign.
Yeah, to me, and I was the same way in Dot Loop. I like to do packets. That's just how I like to operate. It depends on you, your client, your relationship, and what you think they would prefer at the end of the day, because it's the client that's most important. But I've always been a big fan of just sending everything as one big email, as opposed to like several individual ones. That's just how I like to do things, though.
Could you potentially, did you say you were going to touch on like the property condition disclosure? Would those checkboxes show up if you used pre-tagged roles?
Yeah, so that's, yeah, I somewhat addressed that a little bit, but like, yeah, so the role that gets all the boxes is seller one. So seller one fills out the PSD or PCD, right?
Okay.
But if you were to go in there and just say add by email address and just put their name in and go to next, you'll find that you'll be sitting there for a hot minute because those fields aren't there. The fields are there because of the role.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that if it had things to fill in, that's the only time you'd have the ability to ask them to fill and sign, right? Otherwise.
Yeah, so well, you wouldn't ask them to fill and sign at all. It would just be sign. And if they need to fill, it'll be there. And if they don't, those fields aren't there.
Okay.
Right? Because in DocuSign, by the time you're getting to signatures, you're looking at a flat document. Everything interacted by that point is fields. And if you're using pre-tagged roles, the fields will be there, right? Or you can put them in there. Whereas in Dot Loop, in documents, the fields are always there, right? So you have to give them permission or not give them permission. So it's just two different ways to solve the same problem. They just think about it a little bit differently. Once you get used to, like, once you get envelopes and you understand that process, like DocuSign just clicks. It makes sense. I had gotten to the point now where I prefer it. But to be 100% honest, I mean, I rank them pretty much the same as far as general like business goes. It just takes a second to get used to DocuSign because it's a little more, because there's more you can do and there's more options. There's more to learn, right? And the way they do their systems is a little bit different. So it takes, it is change. But like, it's like riding a bike though, man. You ride 3 or 4 transactions through and the next thing you know, it's now muscle memory, you know, like it's just like I always like to say the people that I always hear when this first transition happened, people go, "Oh, well, DocuSign's not user friendly like .loop." And I always cracked up because I was like, "Dude, I had people back when we were on .loop that came from DocuSign that said the exact same thing but in reverse." You're like, "Oh, .loop's not user friendly," right? And I go, "Yeah, it's just because you're not used to it. That's the only thing."
It's just what you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, what's user friendly just means I know how to use it is a different sentence. Now, I'm not trying to invalidate everyone who's had that opinion because I have heard some people. There are some complaints about DocuSign. Like one of the ones we're about to see here in a second is, okay, cool. So Greg has signed everything, and we see now what my documents just used to be just those 2 forms, and now I've got 5 documents in here. I've got a flat PDF that's the certification from the envelope. Always keep this little bad boy. Your lawyer will greatly appreciate it. It's a much more detailed approach to the DocuSign, or .loop and DocuSign do the same thing here, but DocuSign makes a PDF for it, which is the signature verification, right? In .loop, it's a hot link up top of the document that you can click on, and it really just shows it's an email. Both of those are really kind of the same. But I also now have this finished version that's got a green icon. This is the signed version, and this version is no longer editable. There is nothing I can do to this. Ooh, come back. There's nothing I can do to this document now. I mean, I can't, I mean, it's done. It's a flat PDF. Signatures are there. Booyah. Right? Now the form of that very same thing, it's still here. I can still edit it. It does not have signatures on it. So if I need to redo something, I can always just throw the form right back into the envelope, into a new envelope. The last thing I want to talk about before we break for the day is form templates. I do want to make sure I talk about those. So form templates are the pre-fill, because we've talked about autofill, right? Autofill works with the detail section of DocuSign. But what about, okay, I've got, let's actually, the purchase and sale agreement's a good example. All those things are at the very bottom, like all the brokerage information. I got to type all that in. Well, it makes much more sense to just have a copy that already has all that info in it that fills in every time I pull it into a room. What we're talking about there is form templates. So for all the different kinds of language that I repeat over and over again to save myself some time, I want them to just already be there. To use those, we're going to go over to the My Docs tab. The My Docs tab, and don't get lost in here because it's kind of confusing. These first 2 tabs in the My Docs, this is kind of, don't bother with it. Come right into form templates. Form templates. And in here, I have all the different templated versions of the forms that I have access to. To make a new one, I just hit create form template. And I'm going to pick from, let's just say I'm going to pick from the listing pack. And I want to do the confirmation of agency, sure. Now let's do something different. Let's do, won't be a good one. I'll do the listing agreement, that's fine. No. Why am I struggling here? I'll do confirmation of agency, forget it. Okay, so confirmation of agency. I added it in here. And remember, for templates, we're not thinking about any specific transaction. We're thinking about generally. So I know that in my listing pack, I always want to go ahead and just have my name. I always want to go ahead and have this box checked. I always want to go ahead and just have my name at the bottom. Depending on the form, usually much more useful in like the purchase and sale or the listing agreement. I've just got like 8 versions of those now, so I don't want to keep making them. For this type of thing. Oh, listing company, we'll put in Keller Williams Realty. Okay, so I hit save and close. That's how I make a template, okay? So every time I pull this form up now, it can have that information inside of it already pre-filled and ready for me to go. So if I go back to the room, I'll show you how that works. So if I go to add DocuSign forms, I come to that same folder and I grab that confirmation of agency. Instead of just checking it like see lead-based paint, I don't have a template for it, so I just check it, right? But when I check confirmation of agency, I also had this little drop down under the template column, and I can pick the one that I used. So I can make several of these for like a purchase and sale, like one where I know I'm going to use for FHA, one that I know I'm going to use for VA, one that I know that I'm going to use for conventional cash, whatever. I can go ahead and have those pre-written, so with some standard language that I use for those. And then when I go to add them into my room, we'll notice that information is already there. So it's gone ahead and it's auto-filled, right? And in this particular transaction, I was the buyer agent, so it put me over here too. But it pulled this in because I told it that in the template to put that there. That box is already checked, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Any questions about that? Form templates. Okay, so we have reached the end of the content
I'm
for,
sorry, I had to find my picture again. But anyhow, on that form, when you have the little box off to the side, can you rename that? When you went back to the forms and you were clicking them and you said you can pick a different one, can you rename it whatever you want?
when you say pick a different one.
Okay,
do
go
you mean?
back to the agency confirmation and it says, like you were going to use the form and you had the little box over here. Yeah,
Right here?
that. Right. Can you change that name so you can remember which one is which?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't do that at all. So let's do that. So back into form templates, I can do, let's edit this one. And when I'm editing the document up here, do you see this little pencil icon?
Yep.
I can change the name of the templates. If I want to call this Parsons listing, I can name it that. And so now to go back to that drop down, it would be called that.
Okay,
With
thanks.
that being said, though, in the room, though, when it actually gets pulled in, it will always be called whatever its TAR form title is. It won't be its template name when it actually gets in. So it'll still read TAR RF 401 purchase and sale. But when I'm picking from my templates, I can pick which one based off its name. But once it's actually in the room, it'll still say TAR. And you can't change the names of these documents. All right, so that reaches us the end of this content for the pipeline class and DocuSign merged into one. Does anybody have any final thoughts, questions, concerns, feelings, emotions, big ahas that they would like to share before we wrap up for the day? Okay. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all being here. We got 15 minutes left. I'm going to get that back to you. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
I did not have the documents in DocuSign from TAR, and so I'm sure I have an email from you somewhere, but
Evan at retechninja.com. Shoot me an email and say, hey, I need to validate my TAR credentials in DocuSign. Just say that and I'll know what to send you.
All right, thanks.
Hey, can anybody else hear me? Does
Yeah.
if you guys are looking to join a team, let me know. I'm trying to start a team right now. Just saying. All right, see y'all. Thanks, man.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Oh, Evan, I have a question if you're, never mind.